Hello. So a few messages in the last couple of days brought me to the realization that a lot of my followers aren't actually photographers. But some of you guys are actually thinking about getting into photography, and you want to know exactly what you're getting yourself into. Now this video is not to discourage anyone from getting into photography, it's just to try to help you guys avoid making certain mistakes that new photographers do. Not me though, I never made these mistakes. Maybe one, two at most. Now looking at it, probably all. I hope this information helps, and if it does, please remember to drop a like below and hit the subscribe button. Okay, so let's get into it. 5 things to know before getting into photography. Number 1, photography is 50% editing. When you're just starting off, you'll probably think that the only thing you need is a camera. But the thing is that photography is 50% using a camera and 50% editing the photos you took from that camera. So you'll need some type of photo editing software. Now, the most common photo editing software is Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop, but you have to pay for these. And unfortunately, we live in a subscription-based world, so we have to pay monthly for these. No longer can we buy the standalone versions. Those are the good days, right? Cheaper days. Anyway, with that being said, don't be too quick to purchase an Adobe subscription. There are software out there that do some of the things that Adobe Lightroom can do. A good free editing software for both Mac and PC is Raw Therapy. It isn't quite as powerful as Adobe Lightroom, but it's a good place to start. And when you do jump into Lightroom, it will not seem as foreign to you. Okay, number 2, don't be too quick to buy a camera. If you're new to photography, you probably don't own a DSLR or mirrorless camera, but you do have a phone that you can take photos with. And phones nowadays have cameras with great capabilities. My advice, however, is to get a third-party application on your phone that can take full control of the camera's settings, the ISO, the shutter speed, and the aperture. Play around with your phone's camera and use this time to understand what the different settings do. The photos that you do take, try editing them. It'll be a good introduction into photo editing. This will be sort of a trial period for you to decide whether or not you actually want to invest some money into photography gear. So that brings me to my next point, number 3. Don't be too quick to upgrade your camera. So you've used your phone for a couple of weeks to take photos and you're ready to take the next step, that's buying a camera. This is the point at which you buy your first camera. You'll probably invest a certain amount of money into some beginner photography gear, and that's good, it's the start of your photography journey. But I guarantee you, after the first month of using that camera, you'll be thinking about upgrading. Do not do it. I repeat, do not do it. You'll feel as though you've maxed out your camera's potential and you'll start blaming your gear for not getting photos to look the way you want it to look. Unfortunately, this is not the case. Beginners tend to think that because they have a good understanding of the shutter speed, ISO, and the aperture, the next step is to upgrade gear. This happened to me. My first camera was a Nikon D750 and it was a great camera, but I decided to upgrade to a Nikon D600 way too soon. And let me tell you, all my shots on my D600 and my D7000 all look terrible, and I realized at that point that upgrading your camera does not also mean upgrading your skill. My advice here is to upgrade not just when you have a good understanding of camera settings, but when you have a good understanding of composition and lighting, and how all these factors together affect your photos. Quick side note on camera gear here, you don't have to buy your camera brand new. Lots of respectable websites sell used camera gear for a fraction of the cost. Okay, so let's get back into it. Okay, so number 4. YouTube is a great source for learning photography. You'll be tempted to purchase expensive online software that will guarantee you to become a better photographer. And sure, you might get better after taking these courses, but truth be told, there's nothing in these courses that you can't learn from YouTube. There are a bunch of phenomenal photographers on this platform that will be able to teach you everything you need to know about photography. Apart from YouTube, there are lots of websites that teach you what you need to know for free. I myself am self-taught from the internet, and I am now finishing my certificate in photography. I started this certificate just to show potential clients that I do hold some credentials and I am legit. But to be completely honest, I haven't learned anything that I didn't already learn from the internet. Now, I know that not everything on the internet is valid. I don't know, maybe even this video isn't valid. Maybe you should share it with your friends and, ask them if it's valid. But seriously, you could always vet the information you get on the internet with other photographers. If you guys trust me enough to send me stuff that you're unsure about, I'd be happy to check it out. Okay, so since we are on the topic of other photographers, let's jump into number 5. And that is, some photographers can be toxic. Now, don't get me wrong, majority of photographers are really great people. They try to help out a lot and it's a good community. Everyone usually encourages each other. But now and then you come across photographers who critique your work in a less than encouraging way. This is the world that we live in. Apparently it's easier or more fun to discourage people rather than help them out in a constructive way. Don't allow them to be the reason you hang up your camera. When you're just starting off, you'll be proud of some of the photos that you'll take, and you should be. You may want to share these photos with your friends, your family, other photographers, and even random Facebook photography groups. but when you share them, you'll notice the toxic ones right away. Just ignore them. Responding to destructive criticism will just put you in a negative space. Hear what they have to say, but if it puts you in a negative space or brings you down, try to move away from it. Okay, so the last thing that I want to say to you guys is that everyone takes bad photos until they learn to take good ones. Really dumb statement, right? What I'm trying to say is understand why a photo may not look appealing to you and try to correct it in the next shot. It's as simple as that. Don't just stand in the same spot and take the same photo with the same camera settings without changing anything. That's quite literally the definition of insanity. And I've done it over and over again. That makes me insane. Look at your first photo and ask yourself, what can I change to make this better? Understanding why a photo looks the way it does leads to the next photo being better. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching this video. As usual, if you have any questions, you can send me a DM on Instagram and I'll do my best to help out. If you enjoyed this video, remember to drop a like below and consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Be nice to your fellow photographers.